Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris. This is going to be a really exciting project, at least for me. I hope it is for you too. It's going to blend two of my passions, woodworking and music. I have been a musician for a little while now, since I was a teenager. I'm not very good at it. I've been out of practice for a long time, but I'm making two guitar hangers for these guitars right here. So they're beautiful guitars. I've had them for so long and they deserve a place up on the wall, but I don't just want to buy those cheap little metal and rubber things. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a couple of them. I'm gonna make one out of Baltic birch and cherry, and then I'm gonna make another one out of some maple that has kind of the same markings or figure that the Les Paul does. And I'm gonna dye it black. We're gonna kind of make it kind of blend each other. Each hanger is gonna represent both guitars respectively. So guys, come join me for this one. This should be a fun one, and we'll get it done. Let's go. All right, thanks for joining me today, guys. I really appreciate it. And we're just gonna get right into this project by going right to my lumber rack and getting some scrap wood. The whole project is all scrap. So 3/4 inch and 1/2 inch Baltic birch and 4/4 stock cherry. That's what we're using. I've cut them down into 4 by 6 inch pieces, and then I'm layering them every other one, and I'm gonna clamp them overnight with some nice glue coverage. You can see here, I just flood the surface with glue, and I take this kind of glue spreader that Rockler offers, along with their glue mat that you see underneath. It's blue in color, and we're gonna spread it all the way to the edge, giving me a nice even coverage. Clamp it down, wait overnight. You really don't have to wait overnight. You can wait 2 to 3 hours, and then you're good to go. Well, I've got some glue squeeze out to deal with here. I failed to wipe it off before it dried, but that's okay. A little 100 grit sandpaper with a random orbit sander makes quick work of that. So I quickly take the jointer cover away. I'm gonna hook up the dust collection to it, and we're gonna be good to go. I wanna thank Rockler as well for sending all of the new accessories for our dust collection system. Their Dust Right system is incredible. It has quick connect valves on each tool. I'm gonna link everything down below. Again, thank you very much, Rockler. So as we push this piece through the jointer, check this out. A piece of plywood came delaminated from the back when it hit the force of the blades. Scared the crap out of me. It wasn't unsafe, but whew, that was a pretty jarring moment. So moving to the planer now, I'm going to plane the surface flat. We're going to get these two surfaces parallel to each other, and then I'm going to show you an example of just how easy it is to go from tool to tool with this Dust Right system. Very quickly connect one tool to the next and you're up and running. So I squared this blank up on the table saw using my crosscut sled. I'm eventually going to put the fence to where I'm cutting down a piece that's 3/4 of an inch in width. That's going to be the back of the actual guitar hanger. And then I'm going to hook up the dust collection again to the 12-inch disc sander, and I'm going to use this. This is going to make pretty quick work of it, but you can sand this with a random orbit sander, even by hand if you got it. But this is just going to help me blow through this material pretty quickly. After that, I'm taking an existing guitar hook that I've had for years, and I'm using it as kind of a template to make a couple of different cutouts here on the block. I've got a 1/2 inch blade installed in the bandsaw, and it's not the best blade to cut really tight curves. As you see here, I'm kind of having to nibble away at this material, but we made it work. Either way, you can see here that we're going to go ahead and take the same guitar hook. We're going to kind of trace the profile on the edge as well. I'm going to take it back to the bandsaw, and we're going to cut down a piece that pretty much resembles a guitar hook. But this wasn't the best idea, and I'll explain why here in just a second. Oh gosh, man, I tell you what, every project nowadays feels like something goes wrong, and this isn't terribly wrong. This is more of a learning experience. There's no failure, only learning, correct? As you can see, the plywood separated. The layers in the plywood just kind of broke off. Now, it didn't happen without force. You remember that thing with the jointer where the back plies went and kind of, yeah, remember that? So I decided to go ahead and take my own, just with my own grip strength, and try to break this off, and it happened. Now, if it didn't break, that was fantastic, but I'm not gonna risk putting up, a Les Paul up on the wall at all. Gee, sorry. Anyway, moving forward. This broke, so I gotta fix it. I'm not gonna glue this. I'm just gonna forego this design. You should never really copy someone's work, and someone else designed this, and it's not wood, so not a very smart idea. So what I've done, I've taken the remaining block, and I've got that oriented this way. I'm still gonna have this thing cut out with the grain facing the same way, so we're not gonna do that this time. We're gonna place the markings here for the guitar opening and go about this a little bit differently. Also, the bottom portion of this piece, I kind of like it. I kind of I kind of like how this looks. So we're gonna just make a few modifications here. Like I said, no failure, just learning. Let's get back to this and see what we can come up with. So it's at this stage in the process that I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with. I love the fact that I'm gonna get to challenge myself and follow my nose and figure something out, but I hate the fact when things don't work. But that's okay. It seems like every project, something happens where you have to kind of think outside the box, and this is no different. Now here's a quick little blue tape CA glue trick. A lot of people know this, but I need to reattach this piece back to the actual block. I'm doing so by putting 2 parallel facing blue tape surfaces, putting CA glue in between each of those, coming back to the bandsaw and cutting this because I need that flat surface as well. And once I do this, you can see here, as I break this piece apart, that piece comes right off and the blue tape comes right with it. All right, after a couple of failed attempts here, I've got what I think is the best kind of roughed out design for this. Now, I know this is plywood here and it may be a little weaker to hold this guitar, but that's okay because I'm gonna reinforce this whole thing with screws all the way in. But I realized I've kind of got myself in a sanding predicament here. And yeah, I have these attachments for a drill press to kind of these are kind of drum attachments to get in there and kind of, you know, get the work done. But I think it's time for maybe my shop to have a little addition. So let's go ahead and go to the store, pick something up. Well, if you guessed what it is, yep, it's an oscillating spindle sander. This is gonna make quick work of any type of rounding over sanding jobs I need to do. Honestly, I kind of avoided curves in the shop because I didn't have one of these tools, but now that it's in the repertoire of what we have, I think I'm gonna design more curved pieces in the future. So I've sanded a slight curve onto the edge of the piece on one side. I've transferred that line to a piece of paper, cut it out so I can transfer that line again to the other side of the workpiece. I take that back to the sander as well, and we're gonna go ahead and trim it up to the line, giving me a nice even surface all the way around. So now making our way to the workbench, I've got the back portion of the hanger. I'm taking that same line, the same nice curve, and we're gonna transfer that to all 4 corners of this piece as well. I actually cut one piece off at the bandsaw and then use its cutoff to draw the line. A little bit easier to use a piece of wood than a flimsy piece of paper. Then I'm gonna sand each one of those cuts flush. I'm not using the proper tool here. I just got excited that I had that thing in the shop, but this is really the tool you need to go ahead and finish off these lines. So at this point, I take an 1/8 inch rounded over bit and I'm gonna go ahead and break the surfaces of all the edges of both these pieces. The back portion's done, and now we're gonna take the hanger itself and we're gonna break all the edges as well. The reason I'm using a router for this, it might seem like a bit overkill, but it does save time in the sanding process moving forward. So I did notice there were some small voids and imperfections in the wood, so I'm simply using some black CA glue from Starbond, a little activator as well, and we're good to go. I simply use some 120 grit sandpaper, and I'm just hand sanding the rest of this piece from here on out. And honestly guys, there's something pretty therapeutic about just hand sanding a piece over and over again. I don't do this very often. In fact, this is one of the smaller pieces of woodworking I've ever made, but it's one of the most sanded. And as you see here, I got it clamped to my workbench, and I'm kind of using a dry your body off with a towel technique to sand it there. But once it's all done, it's been sanded to 400 grit. Time to put some glue on the back surface. We're going to take some CA glue and put it in the 4 corners and right in the middle. I'm going to use that CA glue to kind of give me a nice firm hold while that glue dries. Leave it in place for a few seconds. Come back with a little activator as well. And now it's strong enough for me to reinforce this with some 2.5 inch countersunk screws. So I know I got the process sped up here, but I am taking a lot of time and making sure this drill bit is aimed perfectly down each of the arms of the hanger. Once I do that, I can see here that this screw is actually going to go right through those plies, giving me the added insurance I'm looking for, because I don't want these plies to come delaminated with the guitar on the wall in the future. And now it's time to apply a very simple finish. This stuff, boiled linseed oil. That's what that stands for. This is a very easy finish to apply. I basically flood the surface with a rag. I actually did 2 coats here within about an hour of each other, but look at the first coat alone. I mean, look at that chatoyance. It's beautiful. So at this point, I'm going to make some marks at the top and the bottom of the piece. I'm going to take a countersinking drill bit. We're going to drill right into it. And these are going to be the mounting holes where we're going to put the screws to mount it to the wall. The screws are actually black, so I think they're going to match with the Starbond glue that is filling some of those cracks and crevices. And again, we're going to put the screws just barely through the surface, and that's going to give me reference marks to attach it to the wall. So now I'm turning my attention to the second guitar hanger. Now this is an old piece of maple I've had in the shop for, I don't know, many years now. It's got a really rough kind of live edge piece at the top, but the reason I'm using it is because look at the tiger striping. That figure in this wood is very reminiscent of the figure in the guitar that's going to go up on the wall. After that's done, I'm going to take this piece of wood here. It has a little bit of a contrasting color. I don't know the species, forgive me for that. I simply got it out of the scrap pile. I'm going to glue 4 pieces together, giving me a nice block. Now here's the deal. The reason I'm using this kind of aesthetic is because the top portion of the actual piece you saw me dye black with that charcoal accent, well, that piece looks to me like a tree. You see it right there? And I'm going to make these branches, if you will, these arms coming out of this guitar hanger look like tree branches. At least that's the aesthetic I'm trying to go for. So we're going to cut it out on the bandsaw. Again, not the best blade for this situation, but we kind of make it work. And yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it so far. I'm just kind of eyeballing the design. I forgot to actually hit record, so yeah, I cut it through the bandsaw like that. And then of course I'm making it back to my fancy new sander. This makes quick work of sanding these corners and these edges really, really nice. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. After about maybe 30 to 40 minutes of hand sanding, that's what we got. So before I attach it to the back, I need to put about a 10-degree bevel or cut on the back of it, and I'm doing that by lifting it up and cutting it through the crosscut sled. Simply flood the surface with some CA glue, put some activator on the base, leave it in place for a little bit, clamp it to the work surface for about 20 minutes or so using the Armor Tool Bench clamping system. Man, what a fantastic addition to the shop that's been. And then again, we're going to take some 2.5-inch screws like we did in the first one before. We're just going to screw them in just like this. Countersink the holes. And guys, let me tell you, you don't really necessarily need to use fancy joinery for stuff like this. I mean, I'm not, because I don't really feel like it. Quite frankly, I probably could. I could put a dovetail joint in there somehow, really work on it. But honestly, my life is so busy, and for this hobby, I just want the aesthetic of it, and I want to know that it's going to be strong. And there are plenty of techniques you can use out there that just simply don't need fancy woodworking joinery. But check that out. Look at the figure of this wood. This is absolutely gorgeous. And again, same process as before. Some countersunk screws to mount it to the wall. And what do you say? Let's go into the media room and put these on the wall. So the first thing you might notice is that things look a little dark. Well, I don't have the best lighting situation for this room, so we're just gonna have to go with it. So the screws are actually poked through the edges just a little bit, and with a blurry camera angle, you're gonna see that I've attached some blue tape there. And I've found those screw marks, those little screw holes that it made, and we're gonna go ahead and install some 75-pound anchors. Simply let the anchor do the work. As you're screwing it in, it will bore itself into the wall, and look at that, no dust at all. Simply line up those holes with those anchors, and I like to do this by hand, just to kind of make sure I don't blow through the anchor and break it. If you've ever worked with drywall anchors before, you know it can't always be the best situation, but in this case, just be careful, and you're gonna be just fine. So for some reason, to test to see if it works, you have to put it on the hanger multiple times, and then of course pan your camera up and around just to kind of give the viewer a better look at it. I think it's gorgeous, I think it's wonderful, and it's time to hang up the other one. This one kind of reminds me of, I don't know, Groot maybe? That's just what it looks like to me. But either way, the process is the same. We're gonna bore those holes into the wall. We're gonna use the reference marks on the back of the piece where the screws were poked through. And I said I like to do these by hand, but I got really confident with this one, and I'm just finishing by hand. They need to go in about another 1/4 inch. And yeah, I love how this one turned out. It has such a kind of a nature aesthetic, and of course the coloring matching both guitars. I'm super pumped about this. So as I show you with these obligatory shots on how they look, I must tell you that I got some Instagram opinions about should I play the guitars in this video, and it was an overwhelming yes. So here we go. Alright, so here's the deal. I'm gonna play two songs, two little portions of songs. First one to guess both songs right in the comments will get a glimpse inside care package. All kinds of stuff, you know? Maybe something I've made, some stickers, who knows? But here's what you gotta do. You gotta guess them right. And I'm not the best musician, so good luck, everybody. All right, check it out. Here's the first of two. Here we go. All right, song number two. By the way, guys, I'm a complete amateur at this, okay? I just do this for fun, and I barely do it anymore. I'm just starting to get back into playing. So, forgive me if it's not very good. Well, guys, there you have it. Thank you so much for joining me for this project. This was a fun one for me. I've had these guitars for quite a long time, and it's been a great honor to put them up on the wall in their respective places, and I feel like each of those hangers did them justice. And like I said, guys, failure is not an option, and failure is not really a thing here. It's just learning. So if you can get that in your mind, you're always going to want to put one foot in front of the next. So guys, thank you so much for joining me for this project. I really appreciate you being here. Your viewership means a lot to me. Again, I've got a Patreon campaign down below. I'm always going to suggest that every once in a while. If it's for you to help support the channel, fantastic. If not, hey, no pressure whatsoever. Guys, thanks again for joining me again. My name is Chris. This has been A Glimpse Inside, and we'll see you on the next project. Take care.
What is up, everybody? This is a project that's going to blend two of the things that I call my hobbies. Yes, woodworking and music. Now, I'm not very good at either one of them.
I just do them for fun, for sure. But golly, man, I'm so excited to get this done. Golly, man. Who says golly? This is going to be an awesome project. Well, it's going to blend two things that I am absolutely passionate about. I think my neighbor's over there listening, so this is going to be a little tough.